And welcome to High Protest. This is Don Jeffries here with you. Sorry for being so fashionably late. We had experiencing technical difficulties bringing our guests on. We're going to have a big panel for you to discuss part two of the Trump assassination attempt. There's just so much there, and I wanted to get Peter Seakosh and Steve Cameron both been doing a lot of work on it. Our old friend Chris Graves is always right in the center of research, and then we're trying to get Peter Hyams. Everybody but Peter Hyams, who's a great guy who's done research as well. We're still having trouble getting him, but we're going to go with what we have. So I first of all thank everybody. I know the chat room was getting a little anxious, and I very much thank everybody who's been waiting around. I don't know if you're seeing this on Twitter or not, but if maybe you're seeing it on Tony's Twitter. I think we have Peter Hyams. You're kidding me. Cool. And we do. Peter Hyams. Okay, we have her, but I apologize. I don't know what was going on. This is kind of sometimes par for the course for me. I don't know. Maybe it's part of my shadow, man. I have no idea. But anyhow, it's great seeing everybody. So let's. Chris Graves needs no introduction to my audience. Peter Seakosh doesn't need too much of one either. Those are two ace researchers that helped me so much, and they're both right in the center of looking at this. Steve Cameron, great friend, goes back a way, and obviously his work on the JFK assassination is superb. And he got Roger Craig's manuscript out there, and I was very honored to write the preface for that. He's got a new book about the JFK too. We'll give him a chance to promote there. But Steve is, just like he did with COVID, is doing a lot of research. He's right on top of this, so he'll have quite a bit to add. And Peter Hyams, very honored to have you here, sir. He's like, I think you're another Hollywood veteran out there, Peter. I don't know, you guys live out on the West Coast, but you've had your hand in a lot of interesting things, and you had indicated you've done, some work analyzing as a photographer. I guess you look at the line of fire and everything. So you'll have quite a bit to offer as well. So let's just go around. Peter Seakosh first. I mean, you're like me, we talk all the time. So obviously you were suspicious about this. I was suspicious at the very beginning. So tell us what things you discovered looking at these anomalies.
Well, we've, many of the things that I've mentioned, you've already mentioned in your Substack. I found a number of just completely insane things in the last few days. You want me to just kind of run off the list here and have you guys comment on them?
Yeah, why don't you? Yeah, and then Steve and
so the building that Thomas Crook shot off of has a lot of weird history to it. For one thing, the founder of American Glass Research was named Dr. Frank Preston. He had made the glass for the atomic bomb and was on one of the Bikini Atoll Islands when the plutonium bomb was being tested. That's one thing that's kind of odd. Then another rather odd thing is that NORAD and NORTHCOM both changed their senior enlisted leaders on June 14th, which was the very next day after the shooting. This was followed up by Kimberly Cheadle in the hearings, which I tortured myself with for 3 hours, mentioning COG in one of her responses, which was rather odd. Let's see, what else did I find here? Go ahead.
Yeah, Peter, can you? There's people are saying there's your mic maybe needs to be turned down the mic gain or something. They're saying my mic sounds a little.
All right. Well, for one thing, I talk kind of loud. Why don't I? I'm going to unplug the headphones and just talk directly into my phone.
Okay, that might work better. Okay. There you go. We'll try that now and see.
That.
Okay. So go ahead, see if that's better.
Yeah, this was something that Chris and I always ran into because when we were doing our shows, I was always yelling, and we're always having to try and figure out the correct volume here.
I would always cry after. I was like, "Come on, man."
Chris, they say it's way better.
Okay, that's cool. Fantastic. Okay, so there's a few other strange things that have occurred in the last few days. Someone actually did ad tracking on Crook's device that shows location data just a block away from the U.S. Secret Service headquarters and the FBI office building in Washington, D.C. Another strange thing is the only Trump rally that CNN live streamed happened to be the Butler, Pennsylvania event. Let's see. Remember the investment group Austin Private Wealth that shorted 12 million shares of Trump Media and Technology Group the day before the assassination attempt? It was later deemed, just a technical malfunction, quote unquote. It turns out Austin Private Wealth is an affiliate of BlackRock, which is pretty weird.
Okay, why don't we keep looking? Why don't we just take some of that and Steve Cameron? How are you familiar with any of that, or just throw out anything you'd like to do? I know you've done a lot of work on this.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'd just like to say hello to the entire panel, everyone in the audience, and everyone in chat. And is Billy Ray in the?
No, he's not saying. No, he's producing. He's behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. I just want to give him a shout out. I really like his work, and I want to say hi to my friend Peter Hymans and Chris Graves, and Peter Seakosh. Thank you so much for all the info you've been sharing with me on Facebook.
You're very welcome, Steve.
And thanks a lot, Don, for having me on today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
All right, great. Yeah, I guess the first thing I'd like to ask Peter about the Oversight Project. That's the project you're talking about, the Heritage Foundation?
That's correct, yeah.
And where's your research led on that? Can you I looked into it somewhat, but can you give everyone in the audience maybe just a brief how does that work? Was it like ad?
Yeah, it was ad tracking, like the ads he was getting on his phone. That's basically how they tracked his kind of where he was.
Okay, because I saw the article that I read. I'm not sure if it's the same one. I think it's the one that you sent me. It mentions that there were hits at his house, at the nursing home that he worked at.
I read that too.
And then those same hits hit in Washington, D.C. near a Secret Service office and a FBI field office. Is that correct?
Right. The article didn't go too deeply into it, but that was the information that was in it. I think it was an Envolve article.
Okay. And yeah, that's very interesting. And it also tracked back, I believe, on July, according to that article, the 7th and the 8th, there were hits at the actual the fairgrounds there in Butler County as well. Right. And then it dropped off the map on July 12th.
That's right. He turned off his phone or something like a day before.
Okay. I don't want to get too far ahead, but the person's name, Greg, whoever took the photos that was in the second floor window of the building that was overlooking the rooftop, he took apparently 2 photos, and one of them showed him on his phone.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I
thought that was interesting. I had no idea.
Karen Carpenter asks in the chat room, I hadn't heard this. The group of buildings Crooks shot from is called the Grassy Knoll. Is there any truth to that? Could that possibly be true?
I haven't heard that, but that's really interesting.
That would be an inside joke of epic proportions.
Well, Don, I haven't heard that exact thing, but I've been hearing that the photographer that got the famous shot of Trump, pumping his fist in the air and everything. Yeah. I heard it's the same George W. Bush photographer on 9/11.
Well, that's what people. I think it's Mills or Doug Mills, but people say. But I've heard both. I don't know if you guys know anymore.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, Chris.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That photographer, you can see him in footage before the shooting. He was behind the stage, and a Secret Service agent walks up to him and directs him to the front of the stage, and then the shots ring out.
He takes a lot of the infamous shots inside the Capitol on January 6th as well. Same guy, same character.
Hey, Don, I think Pete Hymans wanted to say something.
Yeah, Peter Hymans, jump right in here. I'm really happy to have you on this show. Sorry we had so much difficulty getting you and Steve in.
And it's an honor too, Mr. Hymans. Capricorn 1.
Capricorn 1, Time Cop, and 2010. 2010 was an excellent movie.
Yeah, incredible. Peter?
Wrong guy. I'm pretty sure that's the different Peter Hymans.
Oh,
Peter, you're muted. Your mic.
Oh.
Peter Hymans, you're muted. You must be muted.
Okay, how do I fix that?
Yeah. Now, okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. I have a lot of experience in studying the JFK assassination, etc. I've been obsessed with this since the moment this event in Butler happened. And I just want to go back with great respect to Mr. Sikosh and say that you have said this Thomas Crooks was a shooter. I don't believe that that's been established yet. I would like to see if we can agree that he's an alleged shooter.
Right.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Me too.
What I'm noticing is those of us that are very involved and diving deep into the details tend to focus on those. And I've learned over the years that if we focus on the basics first and get the foundation blocks in place, anything that can fit on top of the foundation block is good. If not, then it's not good evidence. So I don't want to be a distraction here, but I've been focusing on trajectories, brass hulls. Where are the brass hulls? How are they found, etc. How many acoustic reports have there been, and what is the analysis on the types and locations of the rifles?
Well, Mr. Hyams, would you say that there's possibly up to 3 or 4 shooters? Because I've heard that.
I'd really like to finish what I was saying, and I'm not being antagonistic here, but I'd like to get the whole foundation of my experience laid out, and then I'll be happy to help as needed. Who were the wounded and where were they? And what kind of trajectory would be necessary from where Thomas Crooks was supposed to have been? The supposed bullet that hit Trump in the ear, where did that go? Or was that a fragment from the person who allegedly was killed? I believe he was, Mr. Comparatore. So some of the real basic bread and butter foundational items are not really known. There's a lot of conjecture. I've seen the video of the trajectory that goes across the back top row of the bleachers that are in no way in a trajectory from the roof where Mr. Crooks was supposed to have been shooting, or the window that was open. So what about that? The railing, the people getting hit, the woman's purse flying, it's all being ignored. And it just feels so much like Dealey Plaza, where we have people running around looking for shoe sizes in Dealey Plaza, but ignoring other things. So I've laid my groundwork. I hope that lands well. And if you have a question, I'd be happy to answer it.
I have no disagreement with any of that.
No, absolutely. I think it is important too that we should. One thing that bothers me is that everyone is now referring to Crooks as the shooter.
Yep.
It's assumed he did it. And as I put out myself, this guy Violets, who was originally identified the police department as a shooter, and a member of Antifa who posted something ominous like violence is coming or something like that. He's been forgotten. I don't know where he went. They threw him down the memory hole, and now everything is Crooks. The early reports, there were early reports about other shooters. Witnesses even told CNN they saw a second shooter, maybe a third shooter. Was there a shooter on the water tower? Lots of questions. And so you're right, Peter. We need to say alleged, because he has all the looks of a patsy to me.
And another thing, I love H.L. Mencken, and he once said, nobody ever went broke underestimating the intelligence of the American people.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but we as a generality are such suckers for sleight of hand. And, look at this. And the whole thing could be happening over on the other side. So it's my job to be skeptical, and I will accept any truth that is truth, good or bad.
If I can jump in for a moment. Hi, Pete. How you doing? Peter Hymans.
Hey,
really good to see you today. Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. Definitely alleged. Peter Sikosh, myself and Peter Sikosh have been going through some information about Maxwell Urich, and we found some interesting things. If you guys want to talk about it, I think Chris Graves. Chris, do you still have a question for Peter Hymans?
No, I'm done with that.
Okay. Yeah, so I think, Peter Hymans, you said that you were interested in knowing about the victims. Corey Compantore, he was the fire chief that was killed. He was positioned camera left, so the left side of the stage where Trump was speaking. And the two injured were David Dutch and James Copenhover, I believe his name was. He was the gentleman. One of them, I'm not sure if maybe one of you, someone there on the panel knows which one actually was to the far right side of the bleachers, and I believe he was shot twice. That was
Mr. Copenhaver, A, and B. On one of your posts on, I believe it was Facebook or Twitter, in the line of people who were responding to you, there was a woman whose last name was Copenhaver. So I don't know if she's a friend of yours or if she's related, but I found that to be curious.
I'll have to go back and take a look at that. One of my other friends on Facebook, in one of the comments, his name's Ron Schuster, and he was saying, how come no one is talking about the elevation of the shot supposedly fired from Crooks's rifle? How did that elevation hit both Trump and I guess it was it Copenhaver, James Copenhaver? He was the one to the far right side. Because he was located, I believe, his chest was approximately 14 feet, 12 to 14 feet high, while Trump was positioned. His ear was 10 feet high.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I believe. And so, I just think that there were definitely more people shooting in that direction than what they're saying. I saw something come out that there's a lot of finger pointing going on because there were 6 agencies there: Secret Service, Homeland Security, ATF, mystery man in a gray suit who was apparently on the roof.
Yeah.
With
he said, "Send me the photos to this number or whatever."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they did. Beaver County. Beaver County officers sent this person, and apparently, I believe it's who is it?
Steve,
senator.
Wasn't there a representative of the FBI too that was behind Trump and didn't do anything? A woman or something? Is that any truth to that?
I was actually. I would like to know, was there FBI there?
Yeah, is that the assistant director? Is that the assistant director that didn't react? That they said was the assistant director and was taking film of Trump afterwards? Has that been established? Whoever it was very strange that she didn't respond to gunfire and just quickly started filming him.
I couldn't find.
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about the woman behind Trump.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the deal with that. Okay, this is just my own opinion. Trump was having everybody kind of look over to the right on a big jumbotron or a monitor of illegal immigration numbers or something like that.
Yeah.
And she was looking to her right. So I believe she was looking at that monitor as well. And she had a smile on her face. So I think she may have been just reacting to what Trump was saying.
But I thought she had a camera too. I could be wrong.
Well, everybody had camera. I mean, who didn't have it? I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone had cell phones there. So and also it also is gives a kind of an illusion. The people that were behind Trump, it looks like they're right up against him, but they're really not. They were probably about 15 feet behind him. And the way the camera is positioned, it looks like they're right behind him.
But I just real quick, I know you guys know that the firefighter Corey Comator, I can't pronounce his last name. I apologize. That was killed.
Comator, yeah.
Comator. Have you seen again? This is why people go down these rabbit holes.
Are you talking about his fire jacket?
Yes, and his name. Yeah,
his name was misspelled. I did look into that, and there was an article released by his, somebody that worked with him, and they said that his name was, accidentally misspelled, but he kept it that way anyway. That was the excuse. So that's all I know about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one other thing that I think is crucial. Representative from Texas, Ronnie Jackson's nephew, was injured there as well. And Ronnie Jackson is a congressman from Texas, and he served as a physician under the Obama and Trump administrations in the White House.
Oh, so wow.
His nephew was nicked on the neck, and it's being completely ignored.
I hadn't heard that. That's wow.
No, it's amazing. There's so many things that so many elements to this, and again, people are and what I don't know if you guys you probably find it strange as I do, but I find that the dynamic here, and it just shows how phony the left-right paradigm is that most people who have questioned Sandy Hook and the Boston bombing and the Parkland, all these mass shootings had questions about it and be accused of being irresponsible. Alex Jones was prosecuted for it.
Yeah.
The criticism of that, I mean, it's not necessarily the right, really, but most people are considered right that basically question that, a right-wing extremist, and the left was very critical of them and basically wanted people prosecuted for asking those questions, harassing the families. Well, here we have the left. I mean, Joy Reid, Keith Olbermann,
Right.
They are openly saying this was fake. I was reading something on the JFK assassination forum today where they have threads about this, and all those guys, so many of them have Trump derangement syndrome. They are just openly saying they're making fun of Trump. And of course, Trump has ego about was he hit with a bullet or shrapnel? But
Don, the FBI director, even came out and was like trying to cast it out on it, which is really strange.
And but as if that somehow that wouldn't make it fake. That would just mean he got hit by shrapnel. But to these people, that discredits him, and this is ridiculous, and he's trying to make more out of it than he is. I mean, I've never been shot, but I probably would not know it was shrapnel or not. I wouldn't know. But so I think that's really irresponsible. And more to this point, I want you guys to comment on this. I've read this is a story in the UK Daily News, and it verifies what I've seen and been hearing. Fully 1/3 of registered Democrats in a poll think are unhappy that the shooter missed. They wanted Trump to go out of there body bag. That's 1/3, 71% of progressives.
There's all kinds of TikTok video stars, like in the days after, they're all like, you missed, you failed us. It's like, it was so disgusting.
Yeah, the same could probably be said if there was TikTok back when Kennedy was killed or when Reagan was shot. There would probably been people from the other side of the fence.
Oh, I believe it.
Lunatics, celebrating.
You had the students in the Dallas schools that said that people cheered and stuff when JFK shot, but nothing like this. This is just, this is just a breakdown, and it shows because with Trump in the middle of it, and I'd like to get Peter Hyam's thoughts on it because I think he's kind of like me. He's more like a Trump agnostic. But I mean, what do you think of that? To me, this is unbelievable that people are willing to eat. I mean, you might think that privately somehow, but why to openly say it? I mean, I just think that's very, it looks bad in any kind of civilized society.
So if I may, the anonymity of a computer keyboard as opposed to saying something face to face with somebody is completely different. And there are bozos of every style that will say things on the internet. If I may, I think, I'm going to say that when it first happened, I watched and I saw Donald Trump reach up for his ear and then look at his hand as it was going down and then go down onto the stage. And then I saw the Iwo Jima like $1 million photo op shot. And I said to myself, this was planned photo op. But then people started getting injured. So what I'm questioning, and again, I'm looking for truth. I don't have any sacred cows here. In Dallas, there are a lot of people who believe that there was a fake assassination planned where bullets would be fired towards the limo, hitting the ground, and then they would blame Cuba so they could go ahead with Operation Northwoods and invade Cuba. But then some nasty SOBs decided to make wet work out of it, unbeknown to the other people, and suddenly it was an assassination. So I'm questioning very seriously whether Trump thought he was getting a great photo op, even as far as when he got on his way to the hospital. And then the wet work was done. Now, another aspect to that, we have not seen his ear. I know a lot about ballistics and so on. And at minimum, a 223 or 5.56 round is traveling 2,800 to 3,000 feet per second at that moment. A 308 Winchester would be traveling about 2,800 feet per second. Unless it just grazed, like barely touching, any contact from one of those rounds would have made his ear have a huge wound in it. Now, the other question that comes to mind is if, in fact, the trajectory through Corey Comperatore's head was in alignment with Mr. Trump, perhaps a piece of skull or a fragment of the bullet, a very small fragment, might have done that damage. We keep hearing talk about a glass shard. Where is the teleprompter that got damaged? We haven't heard anything about that. Okay, I've said enough.
Well, I also heard that the Secret Service was spraying the roof too after taken.
There's photos.
Just like JFK. Yep, they destroyed They destroyed just like JFK. Yeah, that's it.
Also the photos of Trump's ear, be careful everyone, because people are putting pictures out there and they're flipping the image and they're saying, see, because he got hit in the right ear. They're
Oh,
saying,
wow.
see his, yeah, and they're really showing his left ear with no damage. So there are photos out there like that by some insane
Yeah.
people that, you know, just want to
Well,
troll.
that's what makes this case doubly hard to research or examine, is because Trump is in the middle of it, and so many people have vested interests. The Trump cult has the vested interest of making his actions seem heroic and Homeric, and this is it's something for the ages, and it was an act of God that saved him. And of course, the other side hates him so much they don't want him getting any mileage out of this, so they're trying to somehow portray him. Because however you look, whether it was staged or real, he looks pretty heroic, and like Zuckerberg said, pretty badass, jumping up like he did with his fist in the air. You can argue whether that's legitimate or not, but it looked that way. So that's got to be really angering people with TDS. So they have a vested interest in trying to downplay this and making it seem like it was no big deal. And he's making a big deal out of a glass shard. But I don't know what you guys think of that, but I think it makes it very hard with Trump involved here.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
he was supposed to be a dead man. I think that
Yeah.
was supposed to, he was supposed to be dead. And then I believe they were probably going to maybe even try to tie in Iran to the whole thing and maybe try to launch a military intervention over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Steve, the hearings that I listened to the other day where they were grilling Kimberly Cheadle, I was surprised. It seemed like everybody who was questioning her almost kind of had their own agenda. Like a lot of the conservatives were pushing, did you know about this Iranian plot? And Democrats were pushing gun control. And one lady started arguing with a guy about DEI in the middle of it. And it was just kind of, there were a few individuals who did ask very hard questions and pertinent questions. But I was surprised how much like Iran was being entered into the things to kind of muddy the waters.
Well, that's
No,
that's like with the Vegas shooting. Right off the bat, they were trying to tie it to ISIS, saying that they were taking credit for it. Right? Remember that? Like right off the bat,
Right.
Yeah. Then
Well,
there was no ties.
I hope it doesn't come down to that. And you can see because again, nobody wants to go where it's supposed to be. And I'm afraid that Cheadle was the sacrificial lamb here. And, I'm not saying I like her. She looks, I'm saying she's competent, but I don't see how firing her changes anything, because I doubt very seriously that their official training was to not notice a guy walking around with a ladder, apparently with a rifle for 30 minutes, scaling a building. I don't think that they trained them, just ignore that for 30 minutes and see what happens. So I'm more interested in hoping that they talk to the agents that were there and ask them, what are you doing? In that Iwo Jima photo, what's going on here? Why is the female agent ducking down instead of pushing Trump down? Why are the two guys behind them hugging each other? I mean, why wasn't he
the other
pushed
woman
down?
with the holster too, with the gun holster? She couldn't get in.
The Keystone
right.
Cops.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we ask the basic question that detectives ask, cui bono, who benefits? I mean, let's face it, if Trump is killed, notwithstanding the fact that Robert Kennedy is running a good campaign, but the perception would be that the DNC wins the election hands down.
Mm-hmm.
So Trump doesn't die. Suddenly, President Biden falls horribly ill, and suddenly Kamala Harris becomes the anointed one. And Twitter is like being bombarded by robots or bots right now. And then we have this mysterious crashing of airlines and banks and stuff like that. There's no end to the number of distractions. It's like chaff in the air when bombers are flying in. We are being, for whatever reason, by whomever, manipulated to ignore the basic crucial thing. If Trump had been killed, it would be all over the news all the time. And I have to ask, what's going on with Bibi Netanyahu coming into town? And it looked to me like Cheadle was in the audience that night. I snapped a screenshot. But
Oh, wow.
If there was ever a pep rally to go to war with Iran, that was it. And it scared the crap out of me that the Congress people were jumping up and down like people at a Catholic wedding, kneeling to standing. The whole thing is daunting, and we need truth and hopefully some good news somewhere, because right now it's just huge question marks every direction I look.
Hey, does anyone on the panel? I know. I don't know if you guys buy into like the synchronicity of some of these events, where in pop culture or in movies and TV, music, whatever, where they have little hints in to these future events. Like I'm kind of back and forth myself on it. Like 9/11 supposedly had a whole bunch of them, like with the X-Files spinoff show, The Lone Gunman.
Oh, Simpsons.
Things like that. But there's I don't know if anyone saw the Captain America 4 trailer that was like a week before. It got released the week before the Trump thing, the rally and everything. Originally it was called Captain America: A New World Order, and then they changed the title to A Brave New World. So you kind of have your Huxley and your Orwell right there. But in the trailer they had like a not quite similar shots to pardon the pun or whatever, to a presidential assassination attempt on Harrison Ford in that movie.
Oh, you're totally right.
But it just kind of the timing of it, literally a week before the Trump rally, and they haven't pulled that trailer since, which any other time with this woke culture that you would think they would have pulled that. I just didn't know if anyone else had noticed, like Peter or Don or anybody.
Right,
Chris, this is Steve. Yeah, I haven't seen that particular trailer. I will take a look at it. I did see an ad, a magazine ad that had Trump's head in a profile view with his right ear showing, and it looked like it was clipped.
Oh,
okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I believe it was in the New Yorker. It might have been the front page of the New Yorker. I have to look back in that, but I personally believe that probably does exist. I know the lead up to 9/11, there was a lot of that. There was the film The Matrix right before, released in 2000. Yeah. There was said right on there, upside down. You're not looking at it. You had to literally wait till the DVD came out so you could look at it upside down.
In The Matrix, on Neo's license, on his driver's license, it said Tuesday, September 11, 2001, and the movie was released in the summer of '99. But this whole thing reminds me of the Gabby Giffords thing, Don, actually, because she, at the time, from Alaska Palin, her campaign was being criticized at the time because they showed like a crosshairs thing, on a map on her website, and I think it was Gabby Giffords.
No, you're right, it was, and Joe Biden is alleged to have said practically the same thing.
And then you have the Lone Gunman, episode that was released just a couple of months before 9/11.
Remotely taking control of planes and flying them into
and Condoleezza Rice got up in front of Congress and said, "We had no idea anybody would ever try to do anything like this." But they're literally broadcasting it on, primetime television on on Fox.
Trump's assassination was
months before.
Trump's assassination was fantasized about for so long. You had that play in New York that ran for months that ended with him being killed.
Yeah, there was also artwork in a Vanity Fair where they had taken the artwork for the JFK poster. It's red and blue and white, and they had put Trump's face there instead of JFK's.
Yeah. And then you had the what was the other one I was thinking of?
Kathy Griffin holding his.
Head. Yeah. You had that. You had Snoop Dogg made a video shooting him, and then later became.
There was a rap band, I believe. What was the name of that band? But the cover, it was called Party Time Music, and they showed like two people. One had a detonator, and the other one was like orchestrating, like a conductor, and then the Twin Towers were blowing up behind them. And that album, that album was released on September 11, 2001.
We'll have to see if the Simpsons predicted.
I didn't know that.
Trump shooting somehow.
They seem to predict everything. 97. Remember where it said 9/11 on the newspaper?
No, they definitely did, and they had, of course, the Simpsons had foretold how Trump was going to run for president. They had him going down the escalator the exact same way. We'll see if people can find some reference to him being shot here. But because this has been anticipated and people have openly wished for it, and I just find it fascinating. I just think that, I don't think, and I think it shows the difference between the left and the right now. Not that I'm anybody on the right, but the left has lost all their moral compass when it comes to this guy. And Peter certainly knows. I remember that. I'm sure of. And before 1976, when or 75, 76, when the Church Committee first exposed the plots against Castro and the things the CIA were doing, Americans were horrified. And it was so bad that Gerald Ford, of all people, a member of the Warren Commission, signed an executive order outlawing assassination as an American political tool.
That's right.
Now, you go forward to when Barack Obama, great liberal, when he was president, he celebrated assassinating Anwar al-Awlaki. And then his 16-year-old son, he spiked the football with it. Hillary Clinton said, we came, we saw, we died, celebrating Saddam Hussein. And that's where the left is now. So it was a Gaddafi. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, they openly celebrate it. And of course, Trump himself, assassinated whatever the Iranian alleged
Soleimani.
Soleimani. And so we celebrate this stuff, but it's way worse on the left. I don't think if Biden had gotten shot at and survived it, I don't think you would have 30-some% of registered Republicans say that they wish he would, that he wouldn't have missed, that he should have got. I just don't think that. Maybe you guys disagree, but I think that just shows that when it comes to Trump, the other side has lost their minds.
Yeah, they have. I don't disagree with that at all. I think they would be holding not necessarily the Secret Service with the fall gal, Kimberly Cheadle. Back to your point about her, Don. Why don't we know? Do we know the agents' names? Because she wasn't even there, and I don't believe she even visited the site since it happened.
No, she hasn't.
Who was the agent? Who was in charge there? That was
exactly
telling them, oh, don't be on the perfect location to oversee the entire rally on top of the roof where supposedly Crooks was. Be inside the building.
Yeah,
that's right. We don't know who the Kellerman and Greer here were. We don't know the name. We knew all the names of the agents in Dallas. We don't know any of that. Well, all we know, and again, there was a right. They're making a scapegoat of the poor girl that couldn't pull her holster out and with it. So they're making this into a DI thing. But the men weren't doing anything either. So why did they stand down?
Well, what does Peter think?
Which Peter?
Peter Hyman.
You, sir.
Okay, so my focusing photographer mentality is telling me, it's screaming in the back of my mind, the most important piece of evidence right now is a combination, crowdsourced audio analysis of how many shots were fired and where they came from and when. That will lead us to many answers. We're told that there were 8 hulls on the roof. Okay, let's hear the 8 shots from the same rifle. There are multiple trajectories and multiple injuries. When were the people injured and by which audio impulse? It was the acoustic analysis which brought us to the point where the House Select Committee said it was a conspiracy. We have the evidence from multiple sources and they can triangulate it.
I have some info for you, Peter.
Dictabel, right? That's where the acoustic. Yeah. Sorry,
Peter, if I could jump in real quick about what you're speaking on. The supposedly, so the trajectory and the distance originally, I believe, was 138 yards, supposedly from allegedly Crooks to Trump. Correct? Is that correct? 138 yards?
Yeah, about, yeah. Okay.
That's incorrect. If you actually do the measurements, and I got to give credit to who turned me on to this. His name's John Cullen. Some people love him, some people hate him.
Yep.
Some of his work's really good. He put out a video about the trajectories.
Yep. And
the 138 yards does match, but it matches the actual. I think it's the second or third window over from the right in the American Glass building. Literally right below where supposedly Crooks was found dead.
Yeah.
That matches up 138 yards to Trump. But if you actually measure from Trump to where they found the body, it's 15 yards farther. So we're looking at 153 yards from where they found the supposed shooter, from Trump. And that may account for some of the sound analysis that I don't know if you guys know who Chris Martinson is. He's putting out some really good work on his YouTube channel, doing sound acoustics, and there's a problem with the acoustics, and he can't really figure out what the discrepancy is. But I think that is what the discrepancy is, because he measured out 138 yards from the body to Trump.
Well,
so there's 15 more yards between that window and where that body was. So the window is closer. I do believe, and that was on the first floor. That would explain the trajectory. If we want to believe that Trump did get shot in the ear, that bullet would have passed and hit the other victim, the person that was injured, James Copenhagen or Hover.
Yeah.
James Copenhagen.
Well,
So that would
Steve,
explain that if one of those shots was taken from that first floor window, which I believe is likely
Steve,
the case.
Steve, was John Cullen saying in his video analysis, was he saying that most likely it was the shot that nicked his ear was coming from the water tower? Because it was a few days ago.
No. Okay, so Don, I sent you an email with an image. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying. I was trying to go over there, and I don't know
Do you
what's
want-
wrong with this thing. I was going to, when I went over there, it knocked me off, and somehow we lost over half our audience too. I'm looking at the numbers. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, I tried to go there, and
I think they're in our. I think our stuff's being.
Oh my
played with.
gosh.
I know I got
Yeah, I
feds
mean,
crawling all over my Facebook page.
literally
That's for
over.
sure.
I mean, I went to go.
Yeah,
click
Don,
on
you
one
got
of those
booted
things.
like 3 times on my end. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got
you
booted off.
disappeared for a moment there, Don.
Yeah, I did, because I went to click on Steve's link to try to bring something up, and that happened to me on the Power Hour too when I was guest hosting it the last time. And
Well, I'll go ahead and talk about the image. The one that Colin put out recently is one of his most recent videos, probably from yesterday.
yeah, go ahead. 'Cause I apologize.
His trajectory shows the one that he thinks hit Trump in the ear was from that first floor window that would have been located in the same building that Crooks was allegedly on top of, from one of the windows. And you can see in the photos that one of those windows was open. And that lines up. Yeah, he did the the yellow line from the window to Trump. So I believe that's where he thinks that shot came from, Chris.
yeah, I've been going back and forth with John Cullen. He does really great work. He did some great work on the Vegas investigation too, and I think he really is onto something with the possible up to 4 shooter scenario.
Yeah, and the water tower. Yeah,
Yes.
the water tower that you mentioned. There are witnesses that said they saw somebody up there, or they heard shots coming from over in that area. So there may have been somebody positioned on the water tower. I know a shot hit the hydraulics of a crane that was there.
That's
You can see
right.
that.
People
That's
are not
another-
talking about that anymore either, except us.
Yeah, and Peter Hymans was talking about the brass. I didn't see any. So so there's a couple of videos, I guess, that have been released. One by a representative out of Iowa. I forget his name, but he somehow got a hold of the one of the Beaver County's helmet cams up on the roof, and I think it's an FBI agent that he's talking to, possibly Secret Service. But I thought his badge was an FBI. But anyway, he's in that video. I can't see any brass on the roof, and there's sun out. You would think it would be shining all over the place. But then I think it was MSNBC or some news channel released another portion of that video that wasn't released by the representative out of Iowa. And they're counting. They're like counting the shells. They're like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They don't show them, but they're counting them like they are there.
Huh.
So I don't know what to think about that. Obviously, we know that these agencies, these alphabet agencies, they're not above planting evidence.
Well,
we know
Steve,
that
afterwards, it was reported that the Secret Service was washing down with chemicals the roof of that, getting rid of everything.
Yeah, the numbers have suddenly returned. I don't know where they went for a while, but they're back. So I don't know what. I guess we're in the twilight zone with me. But do you guys agree though? The way this narrative is developing, Republicans are very naturally suspicious because this is built around the Secret Service, obviously. Because however you look at it, whatever shit, people can talk about no blood on Trump's hand and all that, and they're legitimate questions. It's true. What was the condition of his ear, and does he still need to be wearing a bandage? Not to mention his followers, any of this stuff. Was he hit by?
If you want to, sorry to cut you off, Don. If you want to believe the Mills photo, when he puts his hand up to his ear, and then he starts to bring it back down, there is red on his hand. There is a dot. It looks like something is on his finger. Possibly.
Okay, because that could just be, again, it could just be Trump's natural, incredible tendency to exaggerate, which he does. And, there's blood everywhere, and that's what he does, and make himself look better.
And
so
he wanted his
definitely.
shoes too. He's like, no, wait,
Yeah.
I need my shoes.
And then I have people, somebody in the chat, John Grissom, was telling me that shoes are associated with Freemasonic rituals. And I mean, it just seems weird to me. How do you lose your shoes? I don't know.
The one of the things that I saw recently was a story where there was a video of, it was like they had piled on Trump in, like, what do they call that, a body wall or whatever it is, but there was a woman off to the side and she's tossing his shoes onto the lawn, which I didn't really understand. And and there was some explanation that when they piled on him, his shoes somehow flew off, which I didn't really understand. So I don't know why she was tossing him onto the lawn. I don't know why, piling on someone would cause their shoes to come off.
She was really intent on getting that MAGA hat of his too. I mean, she picked it up. I don't know how many times. I mean, like, that's not an easily. I don't know. There's so many things.
It's for her eBay account, Don.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but I really think that this is developing around what the narrative is going to be. Is the left is going to continue to maybe kind of insist it didn't happen, which is interesting. Push the hoax thing, because I want to see. You people cheered on Alex Jones being prosecuted for not even saying that. But you basically don't want people questioning these narratives, but you're doing the same thing here. So do you guys find that incredibly hypocritical that the left is now the one that has finally found an event they think is fake, and the right, of course, in this case, that they're the ones saying no, you can't question this.
Well, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Witnesses are like being questioned, like I hate to say it, but in a Sandy Hook like manner, where they're being questioned whether they're actors or not, like.
Yeah, but they can't. There's no parents to sue here. I mean, they're saying this kid shot. Right. What are his parents going to start? Filing billion-dollar lawsuits against Alex Jones, or like?
Right.
Well, but the daughter of the Corey Kovacic, I can't pronounce the name, the firefighter whose name was misspelled. For whatever that's worth. His daughter already, and I found it a little strange. Again, I'm not saying anything, but I don't know that I'd be able to go on Twitter the next day and start arguing with people. And that's what she was doing. And she was saying, and how dare you say it didn't happen? And she hinted at suing. And I'm saying, so that's
the other guy that it was Roger Stone that dropped this guy's name, like within, I don't know, 12 hours of it happening or less. Maybe it was less, like 6 hours after it happened. He dropped on his Twitter, and I've since deleted it, I believe, that it was Maxwell Urich. That was the guy that was up on the roof. And I think this was based on
video footage of him.
Yeah. So, and I believe it was Chris Martinson. Or was it Chris? No, it was I forget his name. He was actually at the rally. Him and his wife. They live in Pennsylvania. They've put up $1,000 reward if Maxwell Urich will prove that he's alive, and he hasn't stepped forward. So I'd like to know where he is. He's the guy that was arrested in 2016 at a Trump rally. And out of nowhere, his name got dropped by Roger Stone. And he had gauges in his ears. And then the body that you see on the rooftop, it looks like this person's had plastic surgery to repair a gauged ear on his earlobe. The earlobes don't match Thomas Crook's from that photo. Then we have the man in the gray suit, who's apparently a member of the ATF, giving orders to the Secret Service to send him photos, which they are not secret. The Beaver County team there to send their photos to him, and they thought he was Secret Service. And so there's a chain of evidence is just apparently just being texted to random strangers on the rooftop who pretended that he was Secret Service. So who knows, what happened to those photos? Were they manipulated or what? But I know that the earlobes don't match Thomas Crook's.
Well, it's like in Dealey Plaza with all these characters brandishing Secret Service credentials, and the Secret Service says we didn't have anybody on foot in Dealey Plaza. Reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah. So sorry, I got knocked off again, you guys, and we lost our numbers again too. I guess I don't know what's going on here. But
boy, what is happening?
Dealey Plaza had so many unusual, unrelated people wandering around, people from the Costa Country Club in California, and James Miltier and so on. They salted it with potential patsies, potential participants and so on, so they can figure out the narrative later. I want to make one point, and that is that it's been clear to me for a long time that the perceived value of life deteriorates by the square of the distance. What I'm trying to say is if your next door neighbor gets shot, it's really concerning. But if somebody in Beirut gets shot, it's not. And I think the same thing has to do with the timing of the news regarding an event. The longer we get away in time from Butler, Pennsylvania, the more chance there is that Tom Cruise or Paris Hilton is going to have some kind of an event and things are going to get watered down, and the perceived importance of the event is going to get watered down. So I think from a personal standpoint, and if I'm being too rambunctious here, concentrating on the key most points and hammering them and not letting them get obfuscated is going to be the key to whether or not there's a success in finding out the truth. Otherwise, it's going to get diluted, and then it's going to boil down to polarized, oh, the left thinks that, the right thinks that, MAGA thinks that, blah, blah. And I would like to say I'm optimistic, but I'm not.
Well, Peter,
one thing that I'm surprised about is one thing I'm surprised about is how long it's taken the officialdom, the establishment, to come up with like a cover story for this thing. Like 9/11, they had a cover story like almost immediately, and this I haven't seen any.
Yeah, their story keeps changing, doesn't it, Peter?
Well,
Peter Seacosh. Yeah, we've some of the messages we were exchanging in our chat about the way supposedly this Crooks character got to the event. Originally, it was a van that was across the street that had explosives in it that was towed by the FBI and the bomb squad. And then that turned into a van that was parked 10 miles away that had explosives in it that was towed by the bomb squad and the FBI. And then apparently he drove his Hyundai, a car, a Sonata, to the event. And now that's changed into a bicycle. Now he rode a bicycle, and then he was also flying drones over supposedly.
Carrying a ladder.
Carrying a ladder. Yeah, I mean, I wrote about that on my Substack this week. Is that how he has two cars there that are registered, including the van, which has Arizona license plates. I don't know that there's any evidence he was ever in Arizona.
Well, guess who lived in Arizona, Don? Maxwell Yerk's father had an address there. Apparently, had an address in Arizona, and he also owned two vans. This is information that has been brought out through the website Ben Verified, I believe, by other researchers.
Yeah, it's incredible. But so we're supposed to believe that he and then the idea that he brought his own ladder. You bring a big long. How did he get the ladder in on a bicycle? I mean, this thing is.
What's the explosives angle? No, they always with these patches.
Remember 9/11, the vans that had the
Columbine. They had explosives in the trunk.
And 7/7, didn't they have a van that had supposedly bombs in that as well? That blew up the tube there in London.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's the first report that came in. And this is on video. If anyone wants to go to Steve Cameron Productions on YouTube, I have the videos on my channel. If Don can't play them, I have the videos there on my channel that everybody can watch. These are the reports that came out the day of. That's the most important information when these events happen. What happens within the first 24, 48 hours? Yes. They released a story, I believe the gentleman's name was Billy Toma. He lived across the street from the rally. He was at the rally. He went home early. And after the shooting, the FBI came across the street and with the bomb squad, and they said they found bombs in this van, and they towed it. And a Fox News reporter interviewed him and told the whole story. Now this was right across the street from the rally. Then the second report that came out, it was a witness named Melody Hook. She was at the rally. She was on one of those bleachers, I believe. She didn't get hit by a bullet or anything. But one of her friends, or possibly her sister, she didn't want to give up the person's information, but she was texted later that night and said, she said the FBI are at my house and the bomb squad, and they're towing a white van that has explosives in it. And she's like, how far away? And she's like 10 miles. She lived 10 miles away from the rally. Now, Thomas Crooks lived approximately 35 miles south in Bethel. that 35 miles south from Butler. So the reason I say that is because the van supposedly that was found, according to witness Melanie Hook, that was 10 miles away. So nowhere near Crooks's house.
Usually with all my research, you're right, Steve. The first 24 hours, first 12 hours, you really got to collect all these news reports because everything does change until it gets cemented like the next day or whatever.
Yep.
But usually, even if the patsies didn't have any plans or whatever with explosives, you always find, whether it's in their car or in their apartment, like the Batman Aurora shooter, James Holmes, his whole thing was booby traps, and it's always to just kind of set up a trail to show guilt.
There's nothing in this Crooks, his background that would suggest that. He graduated with honors at his community college that he went to. His high school has come out and they've denounced everything the government's saying all these bad things. They said, as far as they know, they've never had any issues with him. He was never on the shooting team. They don't know where these stories are coming from. Yeah.
There's another aspect that, thank goodness I work in the industry that I do. There was talk about a 5-foot ladder. Well, we constantly see a picture of a ladder leaning against the building. The OSHA standard for distance between rungs on a ladder is between 10 and 14 inches. There are at least 12 rungs in that ladder that goes up. So if we take 12 times 12, that's 144. That ladder was at least 12 feet high. And I did a drawing based on an estimation of the height of the low end of the roof and the peak of the roof. And the angle was about 5.4 degrees of slope. So that's so shallow. No bullets, shells are going to roll off the roof. And what about this 5-foot ladder when it's at least 12 feet high?
Yeah, and apparently he rode on a bicycle with a rifle on his back and a backpack and 50 rounds of ammo.
And the Secret Service didn't. If you aren't trained, what are you looking for when you're scanning the crowd? And you miss this? You missed. I mean, all he was missing was have T-shirts saying "I'm going to assassinate Trump" or something. I mean, it's ridiculous.
People were pointing at him when he was climbing.
The witnesses, I mean, and the police still did nothing. So again, and this is what I'm afraid that what this is going to boil down to. The left is going to be as deranged as they are about it, maintaining it didn't happen or whatever. But they're not even interested in it beyond that. But the right is going to push. They're going to push the Iran theory. If they blame anybody, it'll be some boogeyman. They won't blame that. They've got Cheadle now. They got the DEI hire gone. Maybe they'll fire the DEI woman agent too, just to make them feel good. But they should, every agent that's there, every police officer should be there. They should call the witness and talk to the BBC and the other witnesses that said, hey, and say, which one of these officers, do you remember which one of these guys you pointed this guy out to that somehow they didn't see climbing up the side of a building with a rifle? And that's what you do. Just like in JFK assassination, William Greer should have been the first witness call, Kellerman, Emory Roberts. The Secret Service should have been grilled. They weren't. No one was criticized until later by the critics. I'm afraid that's going to happen here. I think this is going to all be lost. They got their scapegoat.
Well, Don, was there any epileptic seizures like at the rally?
Chris, there was apparently
an umbrella.
There was apparently a missing 6-year-old at the rally, and 2 people who had to be. I think they had to go to the hospital or something for whatever reason. I overheard that in one of the hearings.
But no umbrella man, like pumping signals.
No umbrella, yeah.
Okay.
Umbrella girl this time, maybe. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You got to keep it woke.
Yeah, that's right.
Sure to me is based on the energy from Bibi Netanyahu's speech, and I have no axe to grind about anything except finding out the truth. But based on his speech, the first microscopic evidence that comes up that Iran was involved, and tanks will roll.
Right.
Yeah. Didn't something about Iran, their involvement in the what was it, the trains over in France for the opening of the Olympics? Aren't they trying to connect Iran to that?
They tried. Yeah.
Iran has become the whipping boy of the world, and I've told my audience knows this. I have a connection to Iran. My sister married an Iranian many years ago, and I grew up seeing lots of Iranians eating Iranian food, and I don't this is now it's become like a theocratic country because it's religious, but back then it was Americanized under the Shah. They've never been a threat to anybody other than the hostage situation you had, which was contrived and then turned into October surprise. But beyond that, they just keep saying state sponsor of terrorism, all that. I know, but they're just there to blame, and the right especially loves to blame. And they've been wanting a war with them for a long time.
Too bad Osama's dead, right? Right, Don?
Yeah. Well, this is new, and this is Iran is kind of a collective, the country and boogeyman, and it's just. I just hate the fact that there's so many anomalies here that I wish people were concentrating on, and we are, but I don't know what kind of hearings will be held. They yelled at the Cheatley, and I don't know if they're going to even do anything else. But will they grill these Secret Service and police? I don't know. I think they'll be searching to see somehow if the Secret Service was controlled by Iran, because I don't think they want to look there. I think they only look for a foreign boogeyman.
Right. I just want Mr. Hyams to do an executive action type film about this now.
Wow. I do have an excellent friendship with Randy Benson, who did, of course, do the Searchers.
Yes.
I would love to think that Randy could get freed up to do something like that. I don't know.
Randy may be watching. I know he watches the show. Randy, if you're watching, how you doing?
I don't know a better person. Anyway, what's clear is that sound bites and short video clips are the medium that people pay attention to. And I've invested in equipment that can take three-dimensional and AR, like you would watch through a Oculus headset. That's the medium that effective people should be looking at. Now, one other thing, and I would like to say that I was affiliated with a men's organization that used to say that men are solution-oriented and others, no, nothing be mentioned, are problem-oriented. And what I would like to do is ask us to ask ourselves, is what we're doing here solution-oriented or problem-oriented? Who can we contact that's going to get the acoustic evidence? Who can we get that's going to push this through? Because otherwise, as noble as it seems to all of us, it will become idle chatter if nothing gets done. How do we get into solution mode?
That's a great point, Peter. Unfortunately, I doubt we'll ever get those answers. There is software. I think it's a company called Triangula out of the Netherlands, and according to their software, they on their website, if you look it up, if they have 3 or more cell phones, they can triangulate. They can figure out exactly where those shots came from. So if the FBI, the FBI, what a joke. If the FBI isn't utilizing that type of software, then we know they're not, and so we'll never get the truth. So,
well, I don't hear anything from the key players who are in the JFK assassination. I would love to hear Tink Thompson or Gary Aguilar or some of the other people voicing up, and they seem to be largely quiet. I don't know.
Yeah, but a lot of those people hate Trump.
Yeah, like, Peter Hyams, I was going to say that I don't know why, because the JFK research community is, they have ignored pretty much everything I've done, even though I go back farther than almost all of them now at this point. But they had some threads in the education forum over there, and just what I can read, almost Jim DiEugenio is kind of interested. I don't think he really has a case of Trump derangement syndrome, but most of those other guys, they think this is a joke. They're not to the point, because again, they don't think anything is fake, and they think people like me should be locked up for even suggesting, questioning witnesses or whatever, and anomalies, but. They're kind of doing that. They're really, really pushing hard the thing that Trump wasn't hit by a bullet. He was hit by a shrapnel or whatever, which again, I don't know how that changes anything. It was a bullet then would have had to be fired at him.
Still hit.
So somehow that makes him, it makes this less of an event or something. I don't quite get it, but they're pushing that very hard. They are there, and they continue to bring up January 6th. What I saw over there. Yeah. Every suggestion about this, what about the Secret Service on January 6th? And what about that? And it's like, they just mix everything. They won't analyze this situation. And it's because they have such hatred for Trump that they.
I just want to say that I try as hard as I can to be very careful using the word they. I have not personally contacted many people who are in the community. I'm dear friends with many of them, and I don't know what they are saying. But one thing I know for sure is if Trump had been dead, they would have been all over this, like trying to be the first fly to the cake at a picnic. But
Yeah.
because it's still, let's say, dangerous or politically incorrect or what, I don't know what it is, but we have conferences coming up in November, and I would love to be part of a panel that would talk about this there, but we haven't
That's a great
had
idea.
an assassination. We came a half an inch away from an assassination. It's all very curious and beyond my ability to comprehend it.
I'm with my my good friend Don here. Like I've been following Don's posts on those JFK educational forums for the last like 10, 15 years. And if it's outside anything else, it seems like anything outside of JFK or to a lesser extent of like MLK or even Bobby Kennedy or whatever, these people don't seem to believe that conspiracies exist other than just that one. Don, like, am I wrong?
No,
here? Like, even with 9/11, yeah.
No, and if you even go back to because most people don't realize that this was probably the longest period of time America's ever had between assassination attempts of political leaders. It looked like they'd, given up that method.
43 years.
43 years. But going back to Reagan wasn't treated like Trump. Nobody has ever been, is subjected to that kind of hatred. But he certainly was not liked by the same people, celebrities in Hollywood and so forth, the media, at least initially. And his assassination was not scrutinized at all. I remember scrutinizing it back then. I've written a little bit about it. Judy, I think it was Judy Woodruff did talk about there was another shooter on top of the hotel.
Yep. Yeah, so, I have that video. That video's on my YouTube.
He was dressed in Secret Service garb, she described, shooting down from the awning above. And conspiracy researchers in the years since called it the Bushy Knoll.
Yeah, that's right. I know Roger Stone has actually talked about that. But again, I think it's because Reagan was right wing. And I think that because the research community, you obviously know, Peter, you go back farther than me, but Ramparts magazine, and these were the May Brussel and all these were really far left people, as I was, in my youth too. But that's who questioned the JFK assassination, and so nobody. I don't think because they have hostility to Reagan, I don't think they were interested in any potential conspiracy to kill him. It just didn't matter to them because they figured, do you get that sense too?
Don, you and I know John Barber well, and
yes.
I think that his movie, The Media and the Second Assassination of President John Kennedy, has been so under observed.
Yes.
Excellent film.
So many people seem to ignore the fact that since that movie was made and since the John Kennedy assassination and Bobby and Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the press has gone from, because of the act that Clinton helped pass, the Telecommunications Act of 1996.
Mm-hmm.
The entire media, 95% of the media, is now owned by not 6 but 5 major corporations. So we're getting refiltered information, biased information. So what we perceive to be true is only a part of what could be true, as far as I'm concerned. And I just want to take my hat off to John Barber for all that he's done, and just encourage people who have not watched the movie, the Media and the Second Assassination of President John F. Kennedy. It's so well worth watching.
Yeah, parts 1 and 2.
Did you guys see John Barber's retirement from Facebook was literally the day before Trump got shot?
Yeah.
And then he came back on Facebook. He's I have to come back.
Well, I'll be meeting John Barber. He's going to be coming to Washington D.C. next Tuesday for an event at American University where they're going to screen his film on William Pepper. So I'll be happy to meet him there, and he's insistent. Well, I don't even have to guess. I'm not bringing any money with me because I know he's going to treat me to some meal. He always does. It's the biggest check grabber you've ever seen.
Well, Peter Seacash got to hang out with him.
Oh yeah. I got to hang out with him in Reno about 2 years ago.
He had to have bought you at least a meal. There's no way.
Yeah. We got Italian.
Yeah.
here in Beverly Hills, he asked me to come do photography work, and I got to meet obviously him, spent a lot of time with him, interviewed him, and then Jim DiEugenio, who I like and respect very much, and David Lifton was there. I have some video of David Lifton speaking in the audience at that. It was magnificent, and so many things. The other thing is, anybody who fails to watch Wag the Dog again these days will have a refresher, a psychological refresher of what is potential.
And have you noticed, Peter? Have you noticed that Wag the Dog is it's never shown on any television network?
Preconditioning movie right there. That's another one.
I don't know where you. I guess you can get a DVD of it or something, but it's not shown. Turner Classic Movies. Nobody go do a search for it on your cable. It's not shown.
And along with that, if you haven't seen the movie Triangle of Sadness, Woody Harrelson does a 2-minute monologue in there that will just blow your shoes off, like Trump's in Butler, because it's amazing. It's just really amazing. And the fact that Woody Harrelson is arguing like a socialist with the Russian rich guy who has become an oligarch. The movie may be hard to watch for some people, but that one 3-minute episode is just hilarious. Triangle of Sadness, Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson is amazing.
GBGN1 reminds us that John Barber will be on Jeff Ren's side, and people can catch me on Jeff Ren's every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Thanks for the shout out, by the way, John, on Rentz's. I listened to your show. I listened to it a few days after, but I appreciate the shout out. I think what was it? We were talking about the body cam footage. Turned out to be state troopers.
Yeah.
Thanks to some of the people in your chat over on Twitter.
Yeah, they were all. But regardless, whoever it was, it's.
Where's their footage?
It's very similar again, and this is why. And I expect some leftists to question that, who get mad when we question why were the Sandy Hook security cameras not working? Yeah. Why were they seemingly not working at any of these events? Why don't they work ever? Same kind of thing. Why, were they not wearing body cams? Why? All cops do that now.
But where's the drone footage?
Don, the body cam footage actually was working when the cops stormed Stephen Paddock's room at the MGM, and it showed that the window in his suite wasn't blown out yet.
Yeah, no broken windows.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one time it did work. Go figure.
Yeah, well, it's in their interest to suppress it because it obviously can be very important. But again,
Christopher Wray was in charge of that one too, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Well, Christopher Wray will get to the bottom of it. That's for sure.
Maybe. But Peter, Mr. Hyams, your background in Hollywood, and especially with movies like what we had mentioned, do you see a lot of, like, throughout your career, like shenanigans behind the scenes where an agenda is being pushed that you noticed maybe like throughout the years that maybe you didn't want in your films or things like that? Or
that's a good question.
It's a great question, but the wrong person. I think you have me confused with somebody who I am Peter Hymans, Hymans. So I'm not a movie producer, although I would give anything I own to become that. So,
just in your career in general, like.
Okay, in my career in general, repeat the last part of that then. Just
agendas being pushed into your work artistically, like throughout in Hollywood.
Well, the Mockingbird is still dropping white poop every direction we look. And we've got Max Holland still living, and we've got Peter Hotez or whatever his name is, spewing all the time. I don't know. The thing that seems to be missing is critical thinking and suspicion. And our founding fathers told us over and over and over again, governments are not to be trusted. But now we are seen as traitors and subversives and potential enemies of the state if we question people and do our constitutional duty. So when they talk about preserving our democracy, it blows my mind. So, the agendas are pretty much everywhere. And again, cui bono, who benefits? If we ask that question, it narrows us down into a channel that is worth pursuing. I don't know. You're getting me to spew here. I need to.
I'm sorry.
Well, no,
there was in trouble.
there was a question earlier, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting who asked the question, but about did I think Kamala Harris is going to be the next president or whatever. And what do you guys think? I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that, I mean, those of us are old enough to remember 1968. And this reminds me very much of that. You had the two assassinations, MLK and RFK, and then before LBJ withdrawing from the race, 2 assassinations, and then the contentious convention in Chicago, where it is this year as well. Here you have an assassination attempt to the front runner, and then you have right after that, the president decides not to run anymore. And for days, it looked like maybe he didn't do this on his own. It wasn't on White House stationery. He didn't make a speech like LBJ did. The signature they claim wasn't him. People were saying, did they even tell the guy? Does he even know what's going on? And then he shows up. And then I don't know, as someone who was a Democrat a long time ago, I one of the many reasons I left their party was their super delegate nonsense where it made the primaries less important. But Peter Hyams, I'm anxious to think what you think of. To me, I don't know how they can just give all these delegates to Kamala Harris because, most people, one thing they don't know their history. John F. Kennedy, one of the many great things about him, he was the first presidential candidate to use the primary system to win the nomination. Before that time, they really were chosen in smoke-filled back rooms. Everyone, including the 56 convention, where he almost became the vice president to Adlai Stevenson. In 1960, he went through the primaries. They hated him doing it. The party machinery did not like him. Eleanor Roosevelt hated him. Harry S. Truman hated him. Adlai Stevenson hated him. They hated him. But he won every primary. And he changed the dynamics of politics. From that moment forward, that's how you get your nomination. This is going to be the first time since then that a major party candidate she didn't win any primaries. So I don't know what you do because this, unlike LBJ dropped out right after the first primary, where McCarthy did, well against him. So he dropped out and then RFK entered and changed everything. But what do you think about, and some people are saying that this is not democracy because the people didn't get to choose this. You're just giving all the delegates to her. I really expected an open convention or something. What do you think? Do you think there'll be more protests against that? I think there should be.
So I believe you were addressing me with the question.
Yes.
I don't have a short answer, but trust me, I'm going to get there. I recently filmed David Talbot in San Francisco about 2 months ago before he had his stroke, which I pray he recovers from. And at that event, during the Q&A, there was about 150 people in a cafe called Manny's in San Francisco. And when the Q&A came up, a woman in the audience started saying that she'd been watching Bobby Kennedy Jr. And the minute the word junior was finished having been said, about 20 people started jeering. And Manny, the owner of the cafe, said, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. This woman is asking a question. This man is going to answer the question, and we're going to listen politely. At that point, David Talbot said that he is on a political action committee for Bobby. He has no way to influence him because he's not allowed to by law. And he reminded us that were around at the time that during the debates for the presidency in 1960, that John Kennedy, when he was debating Nixon, Kennedy was more Nixon-like, more hawkish than Nixon was because he could not afford to be seen as being a softy on communism and a lightweight with regard to military strength. And he said, just remember that right now we're in campaign season, and I know and I like Bobby Kennedy, and I don't understand his position on Israel and Palestine. So that links to something that I want to share. I've been photographer at JFK conferences for many years. And in 2020, I was honored enough to, on behalf of the conference, invite Bobby Kennedy to come to the conference. And at the very tail end of the conference, I received an email, which I would like to read at this point. It's November 20th, 2020, 7:27 p.m. Peter, I'm sorry I couldn't join you this year. Please send my regards and admiration and encouragement and gratitude to all of the extraordinary scholars who keep the torch of freedom, democracy, and idealism burning. There is a straight line from Eisenhower's January 17th, 1961 warning to the Great Reset, the contemporary term for the utter subversion of democracy and our Constitution, by the military-industrial complex. Eisenhower warned us of a coup d'etat by this political plutocracy, which now includes the intelligence apparatus, the medical cartel, the digital telecom, banking, pharmaceutical, and big ag robber barons. The line runs from Eisenhower through Dallas and Memphis, the Ambassador Hotel, Saigon, and the World Trade Center, and ends in Wuhan. Please keep fighting. Truth is our only defense against the big lie. I will meet you all on the barricades. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
That's great.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
my deep, heartfelt feeling is that because it is a political campaign season, he has cautiously and courageously avoided talking about the Great Reset and Justin Trudeau, and the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, and Bill Gates and Fauci and so on. He has to keep some of his cards close to his chest, but it's going to be amazing. And my biggest fear is there's going to be a huge false flag event, which makes all facts irrelevant and perceptions be everything. I hope that answered your question. It was pretty long-winded.
No, it wasn't. And I think it brings up a point about RFK Jr. that he has just been completely disappeared by the media. If he was kowtowing to somebody or something with his ridiculous, over-the-top, pro-Zionist stuff, where it's really pissed off a lot of people, it hasn't worked because the media is ignoring him. And now he should be filling a void at this point, because Kamala Harris is such an empty suit. And if they have a debate that way, I mean, Trump, he won't be able to do what he did to Biden, because Kamala Harris doesn't have dementia, but she is. To say she's in over her head is, I've been around airheads before, and she is a genuine airhead.
Is she the only one? Is she the only one that the Democrats can put on their ticket right now, or does Biden have to die in office? Is that how that works?
No, that's what I'm saying. This is unprecedented, but it seems to me that they have to go back to what they did before JFK. They have to throw the convention open. I don't know why why they all feel compelled to go to Kamala Harris. Because she didn't win any primary. So they have to do it the old-fashioned way and have the party put forth various names and nomination, and then it may take several ballots. I mean, you go back to.
But that war chest of money can't be transferred, correct?
There's some debate about that.
That's what I'm hearing, Steve.
There's a lot of talk about the possibility that Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, may be the candidate. And thank God, Governor Newsom is also from California and also a Willie Brown spawn, because
goes Kamala Harris.
Exactly. And it can't be ignored that Governor Newsom is a graduate of the World Economic Forum's Young Leaders Program.
Yeah.
And
no outsiders here.
But we can't ignore the fact that at the debate, each candidate was only allowed to have 2 people present in the building. And I have seen that Gavin Newsom was one of the people there. So he's definitely the fair-haired boy by appearance, but I think he has too much baggage. And
well, if you remember, not long ago, he was over in China rubbing elbows with the leader over there. Not too long ago, about 6 months ago.
I hate him.
I think Kamala Harris is just a piece of, I don't mean this disrespectfully to her as a person, but as a candidate, from a political sense, she's just a piece of raw meat thrown to the pack of dogs, and they're eating it up very quickly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I have no idea what they're planning to do, but I do know. Again, I don't trust any of these polls. I think all pre-election polls should be banned, except for internally. The campaigns ought to be able to do their polling, but none of it should be publicized, because all it does is manipulate the vote. Because people think, back when Dennis Kucinich, who I loved when he was running, 1%. So everybody, he has no chance of winning. Before any primary, they did the same thing with Cynthia McKinney, who I love. But I don't like the way this works. But they initially said, Trump is ahead by 10 or 11 points in every poll. He's going to crush Kamala. And then suddenly, now they're saying she's ahead by 2 or 3 points. And it's like, how could she get a big kick from Trump being shot at? I mean, the sympathy vote alone, that makes no sense at all. I don't know what you guys think.
Nobody on the planet has voted for her in the primaries and so on. She couldn't win delegates herself. It's a shell game, and Mr. Rosoff, the magician, probably could answer the question better than any of us could.
I'm shooting for a Hillary Big Mike ticket myself.
Yeah, that's what I thought would happen. But Chris Buchan makes a point there, where he says that if Biden dies in office, which Laura Loomer and many others are predicting he's near death. I mean, I don't know what's going on. You never know anything with this guy. But
what do you mean he moved 3 inches in height?
Well, yeah, no, somebody told me he's like 8 feet tall or something now. Yeah, but they if he dies, then she will become acting president, and then I think it's she's automatic. I don't know how that will work, but I think it would just be assumed she got all the delegates. But as somebody who didn't run, it just doesn't seem right to me. But the Democratic Party is long ceased to be Democratic. When they after McGovern won the nomination in 1972, it upset the party establishment, and that's when they invented this super delegates nonsense. And Bernie Sanders saw that when he was running for president. He won like 8 primaries in a row at one point, and Hillary just kept expanding her delegate count because of the super delegates. So that people think that's why Trump didn't run as a Democrat. Because he was a lifelong Democrat, because he didn't like the super delegates. How hard it was from somebody to come outside. I don't know, but I don't mean to take up the time. Peter Seacosh, I haven't heard from you. What's going on?
Oh no, I'm just enjoying listening to you guys. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I agree with everything you guys are saying.
Steve Cameron, what do you think of I don't know what's going to happen this election, but I don't discount the possibility of a false flag, as Peter Hyman says. And who knows? I mean, it looks like they're trying to duplicate 1968 down to the Chicago Convention. I mean, will there be fireworks there? Will be, the Trump people think they're still coming after him. Will they still try? What do you think?
We just had a week ago the computer hack. Yeah. I think that was a dry run. I think that's what we're probably have in store coming up here pretty soon. And if there really is an election, I mean, come on. Is anyone going to vote? I mean, are you guys voting?
Yeah, no. It's like, well, I may actually vote just so I can I don't know if I'll be able, because I always said, well, I'd never get to vote for a Kennedy, but I would probably vote for RFK just to say I finally got to vote for a Kennedy. But I don't know that I'll be able to do that anyhow, because I don't think he's on the ballot in Virginia. He's only in the ballot in like 29 states, I think.
Oh, he's on plenty.
Oh, wow.
He's projected to be on every single one.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
And then what? Like after Election Day, are we all going to come back here again and say they stole the vote? When I mean, is that?
Well, everybody's. Well, that's a situation they've created, that you're going to have millions of people saying that no matter what happens, because nobody trusts the process.
This election already happened decades ago. I'm a conspiracy guy, so sue me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It certainly looks like, I mean, most people think, well, it looks like, maybe they want him back in. But I don't know. I have no idea. Kamala Harris is, she'll give you not really black, because she's more Indian than anything else, but non-white, woman and all that, but she'll give you.
They not like us. They not like us. Have you seen that video?
Yes, I have heard. It's a big hit, isn't it?
More black people in prison. Just remember that, folks.
Yes, she was awful out there, and she's terrible on the RFK. I wrote an article about Kamala Harris in the American Free Press years ago, and Paul Schrade contacted me, of all people. That's how I got him on my show later, because he read it. I don't know why he was reading American Free Press. I don't know, but somehow
didn't she try blocking Sirhan's release?
Yes, she did do that, and she made some ridiculous comments about there was no conspiracy. She didn't understand the first thing about that case at all.
Yep.
And but that's her level of understanding about anything. And if you watch
Newsom too, right, Don? Newsom tried to block his release too.
Yes, right? Newsom. Yeah, because Newsom denied the because they recommended. Didn't they recommend he be paroled, and Newsom blocked it? Isn't that right?
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so we know where they stand.
And then our president of the United States has a bronze bust of Bobby Kennedy sitting on a table behind him. Every time he talks, there's poor Bobby's ghost listening to him.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
And not to mention, RFK Jr.'s family all went. I mean, they all, and I guess they're all just going to go to hell. Well, not all,
just on the payroll.
Yeah,
Well, a bunch of them are in the Biden administration, so they have to
Exactly.
buy in their P's and Q's apparently.
I'm still praying for the big asteroid to take us all out, Don. That's what I'm
well,
hoping.
that's what there's a whole part of there's a whole subset of the conspiracy world that's all they do. They're doomsters, and they were upset that COVID was a psyop. I mean, they wanted it to be a black plague, and they love it. They like the idea of an asteroid. They want World War III.
Don, I think an asteroid hitting the Earth was even in the news briefly after murder hornets.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because during COVID, we talked about that.
And the return of the McRib too, I believe.
Well, we know obviously.
I'd like to get back to the concept of solution orientation, and I'm certainly not the boss here, but some of this chortling that we're doing here, which is enjoyable, reminds me of the late night talk show people who, Karl Marx once said that religion is the opiate of the people. Well, I think these late night talk show comedians are an opiate because by joking about tragedy and corruption and so on, they sort of anesthetize the people into inaction and not thinking. I think we all tend to be lazy, and that's an antidote to creative thinking, is having people charmed by humor that detracts people from being investigating. So if any of you can help me find an acoustic expert company that I can send a suggestion to analyze from multiple locations the acoustics from Butler, I will feel like I've done something leaning into solution.
Well, Mr. Hyams, I will look into that certainly, but can I ask you something without you getting angry?
I'm not going to get angry.
No, I don't even think you'll get angry, but are you the same director that directed a movie called Stay Tuned with John Ritter?
No, I'm Peter Hymans, Hymans. I'm just
I keep getting that.
There's somebody like that.
I'm just a guy that met Bobby Kennedy 7 days before he died, took a picture, made eye contact, and that spot welded me into keeping my eyes open and working for humanity.
Okay, no, the only reason I ask is I was going to ask for a John Ritter anecdote from the movie Stay Tuned. You're not the same individual, but I agree with you. I mean, the only reason a lot of us turn to this kind of humor because the world is pretty friggin' bleak at this point. So,
yeah, you got it. And Chris, your fan Robin Lee is on the screen there. Says that Chris, glad to hear him. So you have there, but yeah, and I know we tend to Peter Hyams. I tend to wander and see. I'm tempted now because he brought up John Ritter. I feel like I got to throw in the anecdote about John Ritter that was in my book On Borrowed Fame because John Ritter was well known in private life to he would love when he was out at restaurants, he would love to suddenly bang the table and say, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Burt Reynolds got away with murder. That was his thing, with his case. I mean, I think it's a great story. I don't know, but that's so I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sidetrack because
I sidetracked. I'll look into an acoustic.
These are depressing times, and I think a little bit of humor here and there actually does help. I mean, believe me, I was just joking about the asteroid. Of course, I don't want an asteroid to come and end us all. But at the same time, hey, if I had a budget that the FBI has and the Secret Service, hey, I'd go out and get those bastards. But I don't have that. So
one thing that I've learned is I've watched, and the concept of being a warrior comes out, and the whole meme about warriors is being willing to go into lethal combat. But to me, the epitome of warrior has always been the samurai from Japan, and they had to be artists. They had to be good with music, gardening, being a good father, dance, etc. And so to me, being a warrior in the modern age is not getting sliced up in battle, but having the courage to avoid the temptation to jump to conclusion, having the courage to be patient and be dignified and respectful when communicating, which to me, and I'm not campaigning for Bobby, I'll vote for him, but he does a marvelous job of containing whatever temper he may have, and he seems to be always respectful. And when people hear him, I believe they have a whole different paradigm of what's going on.
Oh, even with his his position on Israel, which I think is ridiculous, and I can't believe those are his true feelings. But you're going to get that with any candidate. I mean, Trump has streets named after him in Israel, and Kamala Harris is she's ready to be have her picture taken at the Wailing Wall too. So this is it's nothing different. So. But in terms of everything else, RFK Jr. is light years ahead of these people. If I was voting just for philosophy, how can I not vote for somebody who's openly saying the government killed JFK and RFK? I never thought there would be a presidential candidate saying that ever, unless I ran for president, because I'd be saying it. And the way he's talking about the medical industrial complex and the debilitating illnesses that so many people suffer from. He's talking about the situation in Ukraine and getting involved in these forever wars.
Hello? Is everybody still
Don,
there?
you froze up.
I'm still here. Is anybody else?
I'll go ahead and say while Don's unfreezing. I really do think the like one person can change things. One person really can make a change. So I'm not trying to be negative to people out there that are listening. That's just hey, let's just give up. Let's just But I really think that people should try to live their best life, but at the same time, hey, do what you can. Obviously, we don't have the budget that the U.S. government has. The FBI, the Secret Service, the CIA. We don't have that type of budget. We can only do what we can as individuals. I can testify to what, like I was putting information about the second van that was located 10 miles away that had explosives in it. And literally in real time, I was getting censored on Facebook, taking it down. So there's feds over there actively trying to shut people like, the individual up. But occasionally we can break through and get information out there.
Yeah, we can, and we certainly the only place I'm not, and I guess hopefully I'm unfrozen now. But and this only happens during my show.
Oh my gosh. As right as you were saying it, Don.
So I guess before we lose the connection again, why doesn't everyone for Don just say where they can be found? Oh, you're unfrozen, Don, on my end.
Okay, I mean, I don't, I don't know what's, as I said, this only happens on my show.
Yeah, I think he froze up again.
Well, whoever it is late to the birthday party. The cake's already been eaten. We've covered a lot of ground here.
Well, listen, everybody, I'm on a job site right now. I got to get back to work. Thank you so much for having me on, Don. I don't know if you can hear me.
Steve, where can everyone
Great chatting with you, Steve.
Yeah, yes. I have a YouTube channel. It's completely free. I have tons of information on there, historical information dating back to the Kennedy assassination, the Robert F. Kennedy assassination. And this new one, I don't know what to call it. I guess, the attack on Trump's ear. I don't know. But
is your Lee Harvey Oswald book already out and everything?
Yeah. So that's going to hopefully be out by the end of summer. I've had to change a bunch of things. I actually had to take a little time off from it when my friend Jim Gokenauer passed away. He was helping me with that, and but I'm going to try to do right by Jim. And there's going to be some of his information that has not been released to the public in that book. But I'm hoping it's called Frame Up, and it's about the frame up of Lee Harvey Oswald. And I'm also working on a chapter to bring up some of these current events that have happened recently with the Donald Trump rally. And so look for that to be out probably by the end of summer. And I'll have more information for people to find it. And you can also find me on my Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Steve Cameron. You can find me there. And but primarily the YouTube channel, Steve Cameron Productions, and I have a website, stevecameronproductions.com.
Well, thanks, Steve. Thanks. I appreciate you joining us as always. Great job. And Peter Hyams, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
I don't have a website yet. I've undermarketed my photography. My email address is relentlesspete26@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter, but I'm choking from the bots on Twitter right now. That's the best way to reach me. I think Facebook is good. I'm Pete Hymans, and it's really been an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and love to come back again with better news flowing throughout the kingdom.
Yeah. Pleasure to meet you, Peter Hymans.
Oh, we'll definitely have you back on. Yeah, it's great, Peter. It's wonderful to meet you. You've been very supportive of me, and you're one of the best photographers out there. And the fact RFK Jr. is a source of envy to me. So I'm very happy you came on the show. And I apologize to you. It says, once in a while we get this freezing up stuff, but it was really bad today and knocking me off and everything. So I apologize to the audience. Although they're used to it, they understand. That
I would like to just say one more thing about Bobby Jr., which really touched me. I had been at an event on a Friday and seen him taking pictures and so on. And then the next day I went to another event. And when he came in, he looked at me and he says, "Hey, you're everywhere." And then a little bit later, I was sitting in the living room on a sofa, and all the seats were taken. And he came in with a cup of tea, and there was no place to sit. I started to get up, and he said, no, sit down. And he said, "Excuse me, with all respect, you sit down." So those are small things, but they're also huge because they indicate that he pays attention to people and he's very unselfish. And I think it's a very rare thing in somebody that has his notoriety and has done the kind of work that he's done. It'd be very easy to get overrun by one's own ego. And that's not who I've seen.
Wow. That's great.
Well, it's great that you actually know Peter Sikosh. What we tell, and Peter and Chris both worked so much for me on American Memory Hole. How the court historians promote this information. It's out there for pre-sale now. It's going to be officially released on August 27th, and I'm going to have, maybe starting next week, I'm going to have a couple shows probably where we're going to talk about a little bit about what's in the book, but we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that didn't make it in the book because there's so much stuff out there that we couldn't fit it all in there. So and again, we cover so many topics. It goes back to the founding of the Republic.
That was kind of the basis for Peter and I's show. Don't take our word for it. Was a lot of the stuff that didn't make it into Don's work.
Yeah, there was all sorts of stuff that just so much stuff that like Don basically had to figure out what he was going to include and not include. I'm still finding things that I'm just surprised by. Like,
Well, Don, Don, you were like kind of like on the you weren't really sure whether you were going to go forward with a Trump only book, but now with the current events in the last week or so, do you think,
look at how do you keep up with them? I mean, there's a whole section on his assassination attempt.
You think that pretty much cemented the deal with Right on Cue?
Probably. Although right now I'm kind of hooked into the Marilyn Monroe book I'm writing with William Law, who Peter probably knows. Peter Himes, the great researcher, and Peter Himes, I'm pretty sure knows him. Great researcher, and we're probably doing a book about her death. Working on a guy who died and had a lot of interesting research. Has a foreword from Robert Mitchum before he died, believe it or not. So we're going to include in there who was very suspicious. So it's got a lot of interesting stuff. So it's kind of sidetracked me because I really wanted to plow ahead with the Trump stuff, and because there's so much there. But again, how do you end a book on Trump? Because it's just nonstop. I don't know if he's going to be president again. And now this assassination attempt, that's a whole.
You can't not include that.
No, I mean the January 6th section alone is incredible. What happened to all these people? But I mean now you have the assassination attempt, and he's whatever you think of Trump. Like I say, and I want to tell something. I want to say. People, I get mistaken as a Trump supporter and a Trump hater both because I'm Trump agnostic. But my son turned me on to, and if you get a chance to watch it, the one thing they are definitely lying about Trump is his golf game. Trump is a hell of a golfer. They had this video on YouTube where he's playing against Bryson DeChambeau, who is the U.S. Open champ, one of the best young golfers in the world. And they were trying to do something where together they would try to break the record of 50 or something like that with the best score each hole. Trump hung with him. I mean, used to golf a long time ago. Now he doesn't hit it that far, although he hits it far enough. Every drive is perfectly straight. He hit every fairway. He made a long eagle putt. I mean, he's 78 years old, and he was hanging with the one of the best. He would dominate the senior tour based on what I saw. That this guy's a young guy. So, well, and somebody said, "Oh, he cheats." I said, I don't know how he would need to cheat. He hits every fairway. What would he cheat at? I mean, you usually cheat when you get lost in the woods for a while or something, But so I was impressed with him just because he does have incredible energy for 78 years old. Most people 70 years old can't do that. He bounces up and everything. He's overweight. So whatever you say about him, that doesn't mean I don't think he's still Trumpenstein. I do. I have lots of issues with him, but I just wanted to give him a shout out. I just, so when people say that about his golf game, that's not true. Whatever else might be. But
the most hilarious moment of the debate, and I watched
the
real debate on the channel that Bobby Kennedy had. So I got to see three candidates. And the most hilarious moment was when Trump and Biden were talking like a couple of young kids comparing anatomy with each other. And Bobby just rolled his eyes and said, if they have a contest, let me on that stage.
Exactly. Well, I can tell you if they golfed, I don't think Biden is even capable of, hitting a club at this point. But if he had, I mean, Trump is he's in a league where he can hang with people that are pro golfers at young age. I mean, unless that was all CGI footage, I don't know, but it was. That's one thing that they're definitely lying about. Chris Graves, Peter, anything you want to promote before you go into anything?
American Memory Hole. It's coming out August 27th. Everyone should read it. If you liked hidden history, crimes and cover-ups, this might be my favorite book of those three. I'm just saying. And I'm a little bit biased because I was the editor and one of the researchers. But there's so much in there, and I think it doesn't cover all the same bases that most quote-unquote conspiracy books will cover. There's a lot in there that is only in that book. So I really hope that people check it out.
Yeah, you'll learn about our interventionist foreign policy that started under Woodrow Wilson when we invaded countries constantly and they didn't report it. You'll see how FDR invented cancel culture, and you'll learn the truth about Joe McCarthy, who I think's been treated unfairly, and he was actually the first person to suggest FDR knew about Pearl Harbor in advance, by the way, and I think he was killed at Bethesda Naval Hospital as Jim Forrestal was. Lots of stuff. JFK Jr., lots more about that. Chris Graves worked a lot on that, or what I think it was his assassination. Lots more on JFK itself. I talked to people no one's talked to. Lots on 9/11, Oklahoma City.
Yep.
And so lots of it covers. There's so much information in there. So I think people find it a fun read. Chris Graves, anything you want to say?
Yeah, just everyone check out American Memory Hole. I'm very, very pleased to be associated with that, with the research and everything. Just check out Don's Substack. Everyone check out Peter Seacosh's comic book work too. I'm not sure exactly the links, but support these two guys, please.
Peter's a great artist, and he did the cover work for my book on borrowed fame, money, mysteries, and corruption in the entertainment world. You can see that fine stuff. Our friend John Barber wrote the forward to that as well too. So again, thanks everybody. I'm sorry we stayed. So we ended up staying late to make up for it. So thanks everybody for being patient. Thank you to Peter Hymans, certainly to Peter Seacosh, Chris Graves, Steve Cameron, great friend of the show. So thanks anyhow. Thanks everybody. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next week, same time.
All right, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.